How the leopard got its spots. In the days when everybody started fair, best beloved, the leopard lived in a place called the high veld. Remember, it wasn't the low veld or the bush veld or the sour veld, but exclusively bare, hot, shiny high veld, where there was sand and sandy coloured rock and exclusively tufts of sandy yellow grass. The giraffe and the zebra and the eland and the kudu and the hartebeest lived there, and they were exclusively sandy yellow brownish all over. But the leopard, he was the exclusivest, sandiest, yellowest, brownest of them all. A greyish, yellowish, catty-shaped kind of beast, and he matched the exclusively greyish, yellowish, brownish colour of the high veld to one hair. This was very bad for the giraffe and the zebra and the rest of them, for they would lie down by the exclusively yellowish, greyish, brownish stone or clump of grass, and when the giraffe or the zebra or the eland or the kudu or the bushbuck or the bontybuck came by, he would surprise them out of their jumpsome lives, he would indeed. And also there was an Ethiopian with bows and arrows, an exclusively greyish, brownish, yellowish man he was then, who lived on the high veld with the leopard, and the two used to hunt together, the Ethiopian with his bows and arrows, and the leopard exclusively with his teeth and claws, till the giraffe and the eland and the kudu and the quagga and all the rest of them didn't know which way to jump. Best beloved, they didn't indeed. After a long time, things lived for ever so long in those days, they learned to avoid anything that looked like a leopard or an Ethiopian, and bit by bit, the giraffe began it because his legs were the longest. They went away from the high veld. They scuttled for days and days and days until they came to a great forest, exclusively full of trees and bushes and stripy, speckly, patchy, blotchy shadows, and there they hid. And after another long time, what with standing half in the shade and half out of it, and what with the slippery, slidey shadows of the trees falling on them, the giraffe grew blotchy and the zebra grew stripy, and the eland and the kudu grew darker with little wavy grey lines on their back, like bark on a tree trunk. And so, though you could hear them and smell them, you could very seldom see them, and then only when you knew precisely where to look. They had a beautiful time in the exclusively speckly, spickly shadows of the forest, while the leopard and the Ethiopian ran about all over the exclusively greyish, yellowish, reddish high veld outside, wondering where all their breakfast and their dinners and their teas had gone. At last they were so hungry that they ate rats and beetles and rock rabbits, the leopard and the Ethiopian, and then they had the big tummy ache together. And then they met Bavian, the dog-headed barking baboon, who is quite the wisest animal in all South Africa. Said Leopard to Bavian, and it was a very hot day, "Where has all the game gone?" And the Bavian winked. He knew. Said the Ethiopian to the Bavian, "Can you tell me the present habitat of the original fauna?" That meant just the same thing, but the Ethiopian always used long words. He was grown up. The Bavian winked. He knew. Then said the Bavian, "The game has gone into other spots, and my advice to you, leopard, is to go into other spots as soon as you can." And the Ethiopian said, "That's all very fine, but I wish to know whither the aboriginal fauna has migrated." Then said the Bavian, "The original fauna has joined the aboriginal flora because it was high time for a change, and my advice to you, Ethiopian, is to change as soon as you can." That puzzled the leopard and the Ethiopian, but they set off to look for the original flora, and presently, after ever so many days, they saw a great high tall forest full of tree trunks, all exclusively speckled and sprottled and spottled and dotted and slashed, splashed and slashed and hatched and cross-hatched with shadows. If you say that very quickly aloud, you'll see how very shadowy the forest must have been. "What is it," said the leopard, "that is so exclusively dark, yet so full of little pieces of light?" "I don't know," said the Ethiopian, "but it ought to be the aboriginal flora. I can smell giraffe, I can hear giraffe, but I can't see giraffe. That's curious, said the leopard. I suppose it is because we've just come in out of the sunshine. I can smell zebra and I can hear zebra, but I can't see zebra. Wait a bit, said the Ethiopian. It's a long time since we've hunted them. Perhaps we've forgotten what they look like. Fiddle, said the leopard. I remember them perfectly on the high veld, especially their marrow bones. Giraffe is about 17 feet high, of exclusively fulvous golden yellow from head to heel, and zebra is about 4.5 feet high and of exclusively grey fawn colour from head to heel. Said the Ethiopian, looking into the speckly shadows of the aboriginal flora forest. Then they ought to show up in this dark place like ripe bananas in a smokehouse. But they didn't. The leopard and the Ethiopian hunted all day, and though they could smell them and hear them, they never saw one of them. For goodness sake, said the leopard at tea time, let us wait till it gets dark. This daylight hunting is a perfect scandal. So they waited till dark, and then the leopard heard something breathing sniffily in the starlight that fell all stripy through the branches, and he jumped at the noise, and it smelt like zebra, and it felt like a zebra, but when he knocked it down, it kicked like a zebra, but he couldn't see it. So he said, Be quiet, O you person without any form. I'm going to sit on your head till morning, because there's something about you that I don't understand. Presently he heard a grunt and a crash and a scramble, and the Ethiopian called out, I've caught a thing that I can't see. It smells like a giraffe. It kicks like a giraffe, but it hasn't any form. Don't you trust it, said the leopard. Sit on its head till morning, same as me. They haven't any form, any of them. So they sat down on them till bright morning time. Then the leopard said, What have you at your end of the table, brother? And the Ethiopian scratched his head and said, It ought to be exclusively a rich, fulvous orange tawny from head to heel. It ought to be giraffe, but it's covered all over with your chestnut blotches. What have you at your end of the table, brother? And the leopard scratched his head and said, Ought to be exclusively a delicate greyish fawn. It ought to be a zebra, but it is covered all over with black and purple stripes. What in the world have you been doing to yourself, zebra? Don't you know that if you were on the high veld, I could see you 10 miles off? You haven't any form. Yes, said the zebra, but this isn't the high veld. Can't you see? I can now, said the leopard, but I couldn't at all yesterday. How is it done? Let us up, said the zebra, and we'll show you. They let the zebra and the giraffe get up, and the zebra moved away to some little thorn bushes where the sunlight fell all stripy, and giraffe moved off to some tallish trees where the shadows fell all blotchy. Now watch, said the zebra and the giraffe. This is the way it's done. 1, 2, 3. And where's your breakfast? Leopard stared, the Ethiopian stared, but all they could see were stripy shadows and blotched shadows in the forest, but never a sign of zebra and giraffe. They had just walked off and hidden themselves in the shadowy forest. Hi, said the Ethiopian. That's a trick worth learning. Take a lesson by it, leopard. You show up in this dark place like a bar of soap in a coal scuttle. Ho, ho, said the leopard. Would it surprise you very much to know that you show up in this dark place like a mustard plaster on a sack of coals? Well, we can't. Calling names won't catch dinner, said the Ethiopian. The long and little of it is that we don't match our backgrounds. I'm going to take the Bavian's advice. He told me I ought to change, and as I've nothing to change except my skin, I'm going to change that. What to? Said the leopard, tremendously excited. To a nice, working, blackish, brownish colour with a little purple in it and touches of slaty blue. It will be the very thing for hiding in hollows and behind trees. So he changed his skin then and there, and the leopard was more excited than ever. He had never seen a man change his skin before. And what about me? He said, when the Ethiopian had worked his last little finger into his fine new black skin. You take Bavian's advice too. He told you to go into spots. So I did, said the leopard. I went into other spots as fast as I could. I went into this spot with you, and a lot of good it's done me. Oh, said the Ethiopian, Bavian didn't mean spots in South Africa. He meant spots on your skin. What's the use of that? Said the leopard. Think of giraffe, said the Ethiopian, or, if you prefer stripes, think of zebra. They find their spots and stripes give them perfect satisfaction. Said the leopard. I wouldn't look like zebra, not for ever so. Well, make up your mind, said the Ethiopian, because I'd hate to go hunting without you, but I must if you insist on looking like a sunflower against a tarred fence. I'll take spots then, said the leopard, but don't make them too vulgar big. I wouldn't look like giraffe, not for ever so. I'll make them with the tips of my fingers, said the Ethiopian. There's plenty of black left on my skin still. Stand over there. Then the Ethiopian put his 5 fingers close together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There was plenty of black left on his new skin still, and pressed them all over the leopard. And wherever the 5 fingers touched, they left 5 little black marks, all close together. You can see them on any leopard skin you like, best beloved, because sometimes the fingers slipped and the marks got a little blurred. But if you look closely at any leopard now, you will see that there are always 5 spots of 5 fat black fingertips. Now you are a beauty, said the Ethiopian. You can lie out there on the bare ground and look like a heap of pebbles. You can lie out on the naked rocks and look like a piece of pudding stone. You can lie out on a leafy branch and look like sunshine sifting through the leaves. And you can lie right across the centre of a path and look like nothing in particular. Think of that and purr. But if I'm all this, said the leopard, why don't you go spotty too? Oh, plain black's best for a nigger, said the Ethiopian. Now come along and we'll see if we can't get even with Mr. 1, 2, 3, where's your breakfast? So they went away and lived happily ever after, best beloved. That is all. Oh, and now and then you'll hear grown-ups saying, can the Ethiopian change his skin or the leopard his spots? I don't think even grown-ups would keep on saying such a silly thing if the leopard and Ethiopian hadn't done it once. Do you? But they'll never do it again, best beloved. They're quite contented as they are. And see if you can, in this picture, see where the leopard is, because he's got his spots there and he's quite hard to see. There. And that's the end of the story. And I'll be back with another one later.